So our podcast is about your journey in music and how you got to where you are today. So do you want to tell me about where'd you grow up?
I grew up in a little town called Victor, New York, right outside of Rochester, New York.
Okay.
On Lake Ontario. Very cold place. Where I grew up, it was just a really small suburban, out in the country kind of, we had acres and acres to run around in. And,
that's nice.
Just very suburban, kind of middle of New York kind of place.
Nice. How did you get into music?
Well, I think just because I was like the last guy out of all my friends to pick up a guitar. All my buddies started playing guitar. And I kept begging my dad for a guitar. My dad owned a hi-fi business for like 30 years or so. And, he's had like turntables and state-of-the-art like speakers and CD players. Like when the first CD player came out, he had one. The first like Betamax. I remember watching.
Oh wow!
Watching Return of the Jedi on Betamax and being able to pause the television, which back then was like fucking magic. It's like, what the hell is that? Like, it was all grainy and stuff, but still, it was like I remember pausing it on like Yoda's face, and I was like, holy shit! I can't believe you were pausing television. So yeah, basically grew up in a very small, like, not very ethnic kind of town that was very white and very just small town kind of. I look back at it now, and it's like it was pretty redneck. It was just pretty what you'd imagine like in the middle of like New York State. It was it's changed a lot since I go back. I still have family there, so my wife's from there as well, so like we go back once in a while, and it's changed a lot. It's huge now. It's like a fucking city there now. So
that's cool.
But yeah, it was good growing up just because it was a good school system, and had a lot of really good friends, small neighborhoods, and a lot of places to run around, ride motorcycles, and shoot off guns and bow and arrows, and just like parents would open the door at one of the, just go around and come back for dinner kind of places. I live in Atlanta now for the past 20 some years, and I have kids who are, one just turned 16 and the other's about to be 14. So I'm going through teenage years,
high school,
which is aging me. Yeah, high school and almost on to college, which is really scary thought. And they want to be like, hey, we're just going to leave and go run around. And they're big skateboarders, so they like to
cool
hit the skate parks, and and I know what goes on in the skate parks. There's like unfortunately there's been like some drive-by shootings and like crazy stuff that we wouldn't, our parents would never let us out of the house if they knew the stuff we were letting our kids get away with. So yeah, it's kind of scary times, man. It's just it's just part of living in 2020, and you live in a city. You got to remember it's not always it's a scary place sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I know. And I think now, so even more when you can see, on the internet and everything else is going on, it's where everyone's way more aware of what is happening nowadays than I feel like before. It was just like,
traveling at light speed, and you have trackers on your kids' phones so you can see where they are.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny.
Compared to growing up 20, 30 years ago, whatever.
Right.
I didn't have a cell phone until like a couple of years ago.
There you go. So did you say guitar was the first instrument you learned to play?
No, actually, my parents made me take piano.
Oh. Still, did you keep playing it, or is it something you just gave up?
Stand it, because I remember they would drop me off at this really old woman's house down the road, and she lived alone, and she was I don't know, she was like 80 something years old, and her fingers were just like all. I had to look at her fingers all the time, and they were like, they just look terrible, like just all big knuckled and really just old, you know, veiny, and I was like, oh my God, like I hate coming over here and taking piano lessons. But I wish I'd, now looking back, of course, hindsight's 2020, I'd be like,
Right.
yeah, welcome learning piano. But I just think that was a kind of staple, like every kid.
Yeah, I had to go to piano lesson.
And I didn't really like it. I mean, now, you know, I kept begging my parents for an electric guitar because all my friends were playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was cool. You know, I was the only guy who didn't have one. And my parents were like, well, you know, you stick to piano. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play piano. I want to like play electric guitar. And they're like, well, we'll start off with an acoustic guitar. And I was like, I don't want an acoustic guitar. An electric guitar like Eddie Van Halen. So that's kind of where it started. When I was 15, my dad finally brought home a guitar for my 15th birthday.
Wow.
I actually have pictures of me holding the guitar in my ninja costume with all my friends, because we all were into like ninjutsu and running around in the woods making throwing stars and
ninja stars and stuff.
Pretty funny. We're all like dressed up with tab-eye shoes, and I'm opening up the gift of the guitar, and I'm totally stoked. And
that's awesome.
Eddie Van Halen Kramer copy, like $100 guitar, but that got me on the way, you know.
Do you still have that guitar?
No, I don't. I think I had to sell it for rent money like 20, 30 years ago. I wish I still had it. I kind of was trying to find the guy I sold. I know the guy I sold it to, but he doesn't even remember. I was like, dude, I know you barely remember me, but
I want that guitar back.
It'd be great to have that. But he's like, I don't even remember what guitar that was.
Oh man.
Anyway, yeah.
So you get the Eddie Van Halen guitar, and then from there you start learning to play, obviously. And then what's next for you musically? Did you start a band or join a band?
Well, basically, I was playing with all my buddies, but I was like what do you call it? Like the runt of the litter, you know. Like, I couldn't play worth shit. They were all learning like Eruption on guitar and playing all this crazy shit, and I'm like, you know, back then the only music we had was you know, your parents' record collection or what was on the rock station, which is like Boston, Aerosmith,
mm-hmm.
the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, you know, like your very basic like rock bands.
Mm-hmm.
Classic rock or whatever. So that's all I knew until one day my buddy Matt Mickelson, who used to hang out in the art class, we used to hang out, skip classes and hang out in the art room. You know, that was fun. We could make stuff all day and just, you know, hit on girls and fucking draw and paint, whatever. One time he had found this tape. It was Frankenchrist by the Dead Kennedys, and he brought it to me. He's like, dude, listen to this tape I found in the art room one day. One of the punker dudes left it behind. He's like, it's the worst fucking music you've ever heard. It's so silly and goofy. And I put it on, and it just, my trajectory went like, with them, I was like, oh, I just blew up, took off with it running. I was like, this is awesome. I don't know what you're talking about. This is fucking cool. I've never heard music like this. There's not a guitar solo in every song. What the hell kind of music is this? You know what I mean? Like, I realized how sheltered I was when I discovered this music. And I was like, wait, there's people that listen to this, create this, buy this. There's a whole movement, this punk rock thing, you know, and I started like diving into that, piercing my ears and like changing my whole, like, you know, it's my rebellious.
Sure.
Too. So I was like, putting holes in my jeans and like, you know, starting to have like a fashion statement, I guess, bleaching stuff and cutting my hair funny. And
sure,
you know, my guitar playing went along with it. I just started looking up these crazy bands. You know, I've discovered like the Sex Pistols and Circle Jerks, Black Flag. Black Flag really taught me a lot about guitar playing because like Sex Pistols were a pretty basic rock band, you know, they chords and stuff like that were just like, oh, it's an A chord and D chord, G chord, stuff like that, and minimal solos, but it was more like the lyrical content was the punk. But they were flashy for back then because they were kind of just aggressive and loud, and the guitars were distorted, and it was you know, well, when I discovered them, it was the 80s, but anyway, so like when and Dead Kennedys were like a surf rock, punk rock band to me. Like the guitar was like, wow, because used to love like Link Ray and a lot of surf music, and I just thought the guitar playing was very similar to what sounded to me like a surf rock band, but it was politically motivated. And I tried to learn. It was a little more complex than I was ready for. So when I heard Black Flag and I started learning the rhythm, chords and notes and stuff like that, I kind of realized, well, this guy's just kind of going off on, like when he plays a lead or a solo or something, he's just kind of like going for it, whatever. He doesn't sound like he has any training. Like he just sounds like he's playing whatever, and it sounds cool because it's so spontaneous to me. So I kind of learned early on. So basically, my friends who were still in their bedrooms learning Stairway to Heaven and, and double tapping and finger tapping and all that stuff, they were still in their bedrooms learning that. I was like, I discovered the Ramones, and I'm like, wait, these guys know one chord, a power chord, and they've got a band, and they're traveling, and they're touring, and they're making a living at it. I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to do this. I can play one chord. So to me, it was all about the rhythm of, it's like, do with what you have, do the best with what you have. And at the time I just had like one or two chords, and I was like, well, it's more about what you do with it. Like what kind of rhythm you come up with, what kind of song can you write? It's not about practicing for 20 hours a day in your room and taking lessons and learning every guitar solo. I mean, that's all good stuff, but to me, I was like, I don't got patience, time for that. I'll just learn along the way. And that's what I did. I never took any lessons. I just started a band immediately, and it was a punk rock cover band. So it was like Misfits, Black Flag, Circle Jerks, DRI. Like when DRI was around, I was like, man, these guys are so sloppy. So awesome. Something so awesome about it. And that's why it kind of drove me away from like the big anthem bands.
The arena bands.
Arena bands were so fucking untouchable and so far away from me. And I was just like, that's like its whole nother thing. And I was at the ground level with these punk rock bands who I started going to see them. And it was just like anywhere they'd have the show. It didn't have to be at the War Memorial or whatever. Because I'd seen Aerosmith when I was 15, and that was like my first big concert. And that was
cool
production. I was just like, wow, it was great. I loved Aerosmith. I mean, it's still like old Aerosmith's great, but this was like the other end of that spectrum. So, because punk rock was one of those things where you're like, oh, I discovered this. This is mine. No one else knows about these guys. Like, this is something I can claim as my own, and tell my friends, like, dude, check this band out. That's how things were back then. You had to discover bands. You had to go out and actually dig through the record piles, and that's what I did. And that's how I discovered all these other punk rock bands. I kind of liked the covers of what they were. That's what we did. We couldn't pre-listen to the record at the store. You just look at the cover and be like, oh, this is cool. That for me, and so eventually started playing a bunch of gigs and playing at my high school and, stuff like that with like-minded friends. But everyone else is always a hobby. To me, it was always like, no, this is it, man. I'm gonna become a musician someday, and like actually need to do it. At least in the back of my head, I mean, I bet you if you ask my friends from back then, they'd be like, yeah, Bill was always dead serious about always practicing and playing and stuff like that. So
you knew at an early age that this is what you wanted to do.
I just kind of saw that like other people were doing it, and I was like, why can't I do this? I mean, there was a period in my 20s when I was like, okay, I'm getting older now. I mean, Mastodon didn't start until I was almost 30. I was 29 when that actually happened, But
oh, wow.
I had played hundreds of other bands. I was always in at least 2 or 3 bands, like throughout my 20s. And, just started playing with a lot of guys in Rochester, and there's a million great musicians there, that's for sure. And learned from them, just played in a band called Lethargy, and that's where I met Braun.
Okay.
And, played with Eric Burke, who's a great guitar player, who's still around playing now. He taught me a lot. And it was kind of once I saw like the Metallica Master of Puppets record on the shelves, and I was like, wait a minute, these dudes look just like me and my friends on the back cover. It's like they got holes in their jeans, they got long hair, they got like t-shirts on. They don't have makeup on. They don't have studs on. They don't look like Iron Maiden. They don't have all these big props and shit. They look like normal dudes. That's when I kind of fell in love with them. I was like, well, he's got a Misfits shirt on. And then I saw the Slayer records, and I'm like, oh, Jeff Hanneman's got a Dead Kennedy sticker on his guitar. That's awesome. I'm gonna check these guys out. And I was like, whoa, this is really fucking heavy. Again, that sort of started to shape. I started becoming a better guitar player, and my sound started to change. And I was like, well, let me start. I want to sound more like the Metallica. To me was like classical music electrified. I was like, this is really pretty, and the guitar harmonies are awesome. And it was kind of just the next step. I mean, there was a crossover scene, like I was saying, with DRI, because I started getting into DRI, and I was like, I could play all this stuff. It's really fast. So I got a lot of my speed from playing along to those records. And then they came out with the crossover record and the Dealing With It record. And then I was like, well, these guys are punk rock, but now they're becoming kind of metal. And then there was the Four of a Kind record, which to me back then was like, oh, these guys are going full metal, because they got like change of guitar sounds. Now they're like a chunky, galloping kind of band. And then it brought me to like Metallica. I'm like, well, if I'm going to listen to like metal, I should get into like some real metal bands. And then I saved up enough money to buy a Gibson Explorer, a white one, because I wanted like I feel, I was like, this guy's a fucking great player. I want to like learn all these, and they're great songs. This is like, so my hobbies were going to school, coming home, smoking weed, putting on Metallica records, and playing along in my room with my headphones on. And I just sit there and play all the riffs, and I had a blast for years, records, all that stuff, because that's just kind of what you did. I mean, I used to do that with Zeppelin records too before I discovered the punk rock and everything, which, it all comes full circle. Zeppelin's still they're such a great band.
Oh, yeah.
They wrote great songwriters, Jimmy Page, great guitar player, everybody in that band. So, when people ask me what I'm listening to nowadays, I'm like, oh, I still listen to the old shit,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like there's not a lot of new stuff that really gets me going. Like Baroness is pretty close. They're pretty amazing. Just the guitar harmonies and the playing and the picking and the tunings and the songwriting is phenomenal. I love it. But yeah, there's I can stop. You could ask.
No, that's awesome. And then here we are. What? So you start Mastodon. What? You guys started in like 2000, right?
Yeah.
So now we're at 20 years later, and you guys just released, what is it? Your 8th album?
Eighth full length album. Well, I guess the one that just came out, to me, no one ever counts the Call of the Mastodon record, which was technically our first record.
Yeah.
Kind of came out in two pieces. So there's Call of the Mastodon, there's Remission, Leviathan, Blood Mountain, Crack the Sky, The Hunter, Once More Around the Sun, Emperor of Sand, and that's 9. That's 8, and then
8. Oh yeah, so this will be the 9th, or is the 9th record? Wow.
It's not really a studio album per se. It's and it's not a best of, because I don't really believe in best of albums, but it's it's a rarities record. So there's a bunch of stuff on there that we've done that now it's all in one place. We did the Orion cover of Metallica for a Kerrang magazine thing that only came out like in an issue of Kerrang. So that was hard to find digitally. Spoonful Weighs a Ton by Flaming Lips. We did that on a Warner Brothers cover album thing. We did The Bit by the Melvins that was on this Melvins comp only. And then there's also the ZZ Top cover, just got made, which was like a 7-inch, and also came out on a Warner Brothers like uncovered compilation with a bunch of Warner Brothers artists. So stuff that was like all over the place. So we kind of just honed it all in one place where a lot of people had never heard a lot of those songs.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't really have access or didn't know about it. So
yeah, if you didn't have that Kerrang magazine, you wouldn't have that track.
And then the Fallen Torches song, which was a brand new song, that was a studio song that we did like a year and a half ago with Scott Kelly from Neurosis. And it was right before a European tour with Scott. And our plan was to play that song as part of our Scott Kelly section of the show every night.
Mm-hmm.
But just I think we bit off more than we could chew with that, and ended up hitting the road, and the song didn't come out. So we just didn't end up playing it. So, it was like, well, we got to put that song out. When are we going to put the song out? It's going to get old, and it's just sitting around. It's a great tune.
Mm-hmm.
And the Warner Brothers people in management were like, well, what if we put that song out before your new album, but we add some more stuff to it, like some rare tracks, or do something special. So that's what this Medium Rarities is.
Very cool. And I love the video you guys put together for Fallen Torches as well. It's like the visuals are crazy.
It's pretty trippy.
Yeah, totally trippy.
It's pretty awesome. It reminds me of so many things in one. It's like I was reading some comments and someone's like, is this the new Star Wars? It's like, not, but it kind of
does kind of gives you that feel too. And you guys,
yeah, I enjoy, I don't like being in the videos unless it's like super goofy, but like this was just one of those times where it was like, wow, when they kind of showed us like the treatment, we were like, holy shit, this looks really trippy, wild, and we don't have to like be in it. Like you guys, we can just kind of direct it a little bit, like, hey, do this here, lighten that up, and add this, and put it to the beat of the song, and it's like, just let it be, man. Videos these days are, they're cool and tell a story and stuff, but this one is just sort of like, it's just sort of out there.
Yeah. And was it done visually the way it is because of COVID? Or was this something that you guys did, or were you thinking about, or was this always the plan for the video?
It was always the plan. We just had someone in mind to do it and put it all together. And they kind of came back with like, well, because we kind of gave them some vague, like, well, we want it to be crazy and shit flying by and it's intense songs. So we've got to have like some intense visuals. And they're like, well, how about this? And we're like, oh, wow, yeah, that's great. Let's do that. So
that's cool. Nice. And then you guys have a song in the new Bill and Ted soundtrack too.
We do, yeah.
I would assume that you're fans of the original film.
Yeah. I mean, that long time ago.
Sure. Was it pretty cool to be asked to do the new one?
Yeah, of course. Like we love being in movies and soundtracks and all that stuff. It's just great. It's good, more exposure, and means somebody out there likes us and they still want to hear our music. And it was just fun because we'd kind of like we had just written the song, and then we got asked to do like, hey, we need like a super heavy, fast, blasting out of hell kind of song. And I was like, man, I got the perfect song. Just amazing.
Oh, cool. So you just had that track done and you're like, okay, well, here's Rufus Lives. We have a song for you guys. Yeah,
pretty much. It was almost done. We had the basic like ideas down. I mean, it's still, so.
Nice. Well, Thank you so much, Bill, for chatting with me today. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for talking. I have one more question,
man, no problem.
if you don't mind. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I mean, you can never practice too much, honestly. And, if you have, your eye on something that you want to be or become or do, I mean, just do it and do it now. Don't wait around for record companies come knocking on your door, because I used to be like that, just thinking like, well, someday, I don't know how to do it. You just got to get up and get out there and hit the streets and put in the hours and the work, and, just keep chasing your dream and do it. Just keep doing it until it happens, really.